Hey y'all, what is up? So today's video is about, are you really a flexible dieter? So this is something that I'm also very interested in, very passionate about, and my views on this have changed over time, which I think anyone's views with anything should change over time in a positive way. The real catalyst to change, I guess, for this was my study, which of course looked at, I've talked about this a million times, but looked at flexible dieting versus a meal plan and its effects on weight loss and weight regain. And it really opened my eyes to things. It really made me empathetic to different types of dieting and where everyone was in their journey. So that was kind of where everything changed for me. And then also, as somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, has been doing different types of diets, been dieting really my whole life in some way, shape, or form, and really just kind of learning what works for me, what works for clients, and then also seeing other people kind of go through things. So that's where this video topic comes from. The thumbnail's pretty funny, right? I'm so funny. I'm just kidding. But I saw that picture and I was like, oh, this is the perfect topic, perfect thumbnail for this video. I never have like clickbaity thumbnails, but that one is like perfect. Anyway, I get so excited about nothing. So I wanted to talk about these things today, and it just really kind of holds, I don't know, it just makes me really sad when I see people who talk about flexible dieting who necessarily aren't a flexible dieter. So I wanted to talk about like what my thoughts are on flexible dieting, what it really means, and just kind of tips that you guys can take away from this video if you maybe fall into this category, or you know someone, or you are a coach, or anything like that. It'll make more sense if I go along. I tried to do a cute intro this time and make it all like official, and it sucked, but okay, so I'll get to it. So to the real meat of the conversation, and not me just kind of blabbling along, writing like an introduction of this. Too many people use flexible dieting, I think, incorrectly. To me, a flexible diet should be just that, a flexible diet where you interchange food sources and you don't really have any issues with certain foods or certain amounts, or, flexible dieting has turned into synonymously, if it fits your macros. Which I think, if it fits your macros, should be more of a part of flexible dieting. There is absolutely nothing flexible about tracking your macros to the gram every single day. There's not. Unless you've been on a super, super, super crazy strict meal plan and you, had like 5 foods for 6 months, then you find macros and you're like, oh, this is so amazing and this is so flexible. But if I took any random person off the street and I said, hey, you get to eat whatever you want, but you have to weigh everything, track everything, put it down, right? Make these numbers fit. They'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? They'd be like, why am I doing this? So the goal, I think, of flexible dieting, or even if it fits your macros, should be, there's times of this very structured and there's times of more flexibility. If you are doing a contest prep, yes, I think that you should be tracking your macros. I think that is the superior way to diet, as far as not necessarily, so even with flexible dieting, or if it fits your macros, you can still make a meal plan for yourself. So I think that is a superior way versus someone saying, oh, just take that food out of your meal plan. Like, I don't think that's a good way of dieting. I think knowing your numbers and kind of understanding the food is really, really important. So yes, caveat, I track macros when I diet. I'm a coach who tells people to track their macros. So this is something that I'm not anti. This is not a video on anti-macros. What I'm anti is when I try and encourage people to, eat more flexibly, or, hey, you can loosely track this meal and then you can still log it. Like, you can say, oh, that had about 30 carbs, this many fat, whatever, and then you kind of move on with your day. And when people can't do that, that's when I think there's a problem. So people who cannot eat outside of their bubble, cannot eat outside of their food scale or their house, that is some form of disordered eating. Obviously I'm not a clinical person, I can't diagnose anyone with anything, but in my opinion, that is very sad and very disordered. When in reality, when I go out to eat and I'm prepping, I order the same things that I would make at home. And I just simply, okay, that's about this, that's about that, and then I just kind of move on. I can't tell you how many times I've posted a picture of me eating out and people just like lose it. And they're like, how are you doing this? I'll never forget, there was a picture I had of a salad, And I said, okay, I have salad, and I remember this exact meal because it's really good. It's from Seasons 52. So if you go there, totally get this. They have sea bass, and it's on. It has basmati. It's like brown, black, whatever rice, and then it came with like a side salad. And I asked for the it was like soy sauce or not soy sauce, it was like teriyaki. It was something a little bit with more sugar in it. I could taste it. I said, oh, put the sauce on the side, and I ate the fish and the rice, and then I got like a salad. And I said I dipped my fork in the dressing. And it was like a vinaigrette, so that's, you know, some carbs, some fats, okay. Someone was like, oh my God, how did you track the dressing? Like, how did you know exactly what it was? I didn't know exactly what it was. I dipped my fork into it for a few bites, and I added a few grams of carbs, a few grams of fat. That, to me, is flexible dieting. And yes, this is when I'm on a contest prep, y'all. I eat out all the time. I'm traveling all the time. I'm doing things. Again, if you watch my Italy video, I was in Italy for 3 days before my last show, eating out without a food scale. So it is possible to eat anywhere. You just have to simply make a choice. And if you're not in a contest prep, when I tell clients now, this is something that I've incorporated now into, you know, my coaching style. When people get to a certain point, you know, we've reversed for a while. Say we're in an off season, we're reversing, we're adding calories, we're regaining consistency, you know, and just kind of stabilizing things. And I'll be like, okay, hey, you know, add in an untracked meal here. Or, you know, like, let's have a full intuitive week, you know, eat, you know, roughly what you would do. If I can tell somebody like needs that mentally, I'll say to do that. Or, okay, just loosely track everything for one day. Don't necessarily, you know, stay within your numbers, but just kind of loosely track things. And these are things that I'm forcing people to get out of their comfort zones with. Again, I'm somebody who coaches clients with macros, using macros. So I'm telling them, okay, it's these macros every day. And then I'm telling them, okay, but also like make sure you add in this. And at first it can sometimes be met with resistance. But for the most part, people, once they get the hang of it, they really enjoy it. And they realize like, oh wow, I can eat out or eat my favorite foods. Or even if you're at home, like you can just loosely track something. Like, you know, if you're making food at home, you know, you kind of know what's in it, right? And then just say, okay, I made 4 servings of this. I'll just kind of scoop out what looks like a 4th. And every single day doesn't have to be like on the dot. And overall consistency is most important. And the number one way to get burned out is to do things like to the T every single day. And again, I'm not saying if you're a few weeks out from a contest, go, oh, Lauren made this video about being really flexible and I'm just gonna eat whatever I want. Like, absolutely not what I'm saying. That's super inappropriate. What I'm saying is there needs to be some flexibility within the rigidness of whatever your diet is, whether it's off season or it is in contest prep. I mean, I've had people who, you know, I get comments about this all the time, or even, you know, clients worried about traveling and they're, you know, off season. I'm like, just loosely track for a few days and then get back to it, and then make sure you drink more water when you get home, and everything will level out in a week. You have to be able to trust yourself and not rely on this food scale and these 3 numbers to get you through the day, because that is a problem, in my opinion. You know, again, who am I to diagnose anyone with anything? But I think that there is way more to life than worrying about just that. And I've seen people who can't eat out because they don't know exactly what's in it. And I'm talking like, you know, you go out to a restaurant and you want to eat breakfast. Okay, you can order eggs, you can order egg whites, you can get toast. I mean, there's nothing more simple than that, right? And even if you don't know exactly how many carbs are in the toast, go by what you think it is, and then maybe add a few grams if you're like really being careful. It just, you know, and I know I'm speaking to a lot of people who might be watching this, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm harping on anyone, like, oh my God, I can't believe you can't track and go out to eat or do whatever. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to make it known, like, look, you can follow your goals and you can still be flexible. So having a flexible diet is being able to understand portions of food, what's in food. And that's what's amazing about tracking, is that you realize after a while, okay, this looks about, you know, 6 ounces of chicken. This looks about XYZ. So once you start to track and you realize that, you can get outside of that comfort zone. You can get outside of that food scale. I never bring a food scale to a restaurant. I think that that's crazy. I've been tracking macros and measuring food for so many years. If you can't eyeball that, then you're just lying to yourself, and you're just using the scale as like some source of outlet. And you can't look at food and say, oh, this is what that is. You really need to be able to kind of trust yourself, and that's just what it comes down to. Now, the only time that I think that macros can be really helpful, like 24/7, is when someone is known to chronically undereat. it's hard to tell a client who undereats consistently, oh, just have an intuitive week, because an intuitive week to them will just be undereating, and then that's not necessarily like the goal. So you kind of have to know your clients or know yourself if you're in that situation. If you're in a situation where you constantly feel like you're undereating, if you're not being held accountable, maybe you need to talk to somebody who's well qualified for that, because I do, again, think that is a problem. Not my place to try to fix that. I can try to help, but if it's really a chronic ongoing issue, definitely see someone about that. But yeah, you guys need to be able to incorporate flexibility and have a flexible diet that actually is flexible. I can't tell you how many people who are the most rigid macro trackers, and they will track everything down to the gram, and even if it is like quote unquote junk food or whatever it is, but then they can't go out and have like chicken in a salad because I don't know what's in that. It's just, what? What are you doing? And I understand that it takes time, and I understand, again, that a lot of people who come into doing macros have either come from a very, very restrictive background and now they find that this is super flexible. But over time, you should be able to evolve into, tracking more rigidly, and then, okay, I can loosely eyeball this, and then, okay, I about know where I'm at. And especially if you're like deep into an off season, I would highly encourage anyone to, do these times where you have like, okay, I have an untracked meal this week, or, oh, okay, I just loosely tracked that. And these are not binges, these are not excuses to go overboard, because if you feel that that's what you need to do, then that usually is a sign that you're being too restrictive in your everyday life. If I tell someone to go have an untracked meal and they go, oh, that turned into a binge, it happens every time, then we have that conversation like, look, that's not the appropriate response. Why do we feel like this? How can we fix this? Because if you're too rigid in your everyday life, like Monday through Friday, I'm tracking my meals, I'm meal prepping, everything's to the gram, oh my gosh, it's perfect, and then Saturday comes and you're like, woo! Untracked meal turned into YOLO weekend, and then that happens over time. Those are also ingraining bad behaviors. So the loosely tracking or the untracked meal or the whatever it may be shouldn't feel like, oh, now I don't have macros, so I can just do whatever. Like, you shouldn't feel like that with your macros. That's probably what I'm trying to get at. Again, competition prep is a whole nother animal. Shit needs to be on point. That's exhausting. That's mentally draining. And, that's just kind of is what it is. You got to be a little bit more on point with that, whatever you're doing, whether it's tracking macros or it's a meal plan. Contest prep is a whole different animal. But developing more flexibility in your off season, I think, really helps with contest prep. And I would not have been able to survive my contest prep last year if I wasn't more flexible in my approach. And this took a lot of time. It took a lot of trial and way more error than people probably want to go through. And that sucks. Nobody wants to fail especially if you do have a coach. You don't want to be like, oh, coach, I messed up, or messed up, whatever that means. This is food, you guys. So don't feel like so bad. But, I understand, because I've been there, and it sucks, but the only way to grow is to try things, to fail, and then to try again. And the only way you're going to get past, the fear of not knowing what's in something is to just do it one time and start with things that are easy to track. When I'm dieting, everything I order is usually easy to track. But when I'm, now that I'm off season, I can, I don't really track that much, honestly. Before a show, I will kind of really understand my maintenance. But for me, I've done this for so many years that I can comfortably, intuitively do stuff. And if I want to overeat, I just make that decision. I say, oh, that looks really good, or we're going to dinner and like they have this bomb dessert here, or like the picture. And that's kind of just what you end up doing. And it's okay to live a little bit. It's okay to do that. If you're trying to stay stage lean year round, then you won't be able to do that. But you shouldn't be trying to stay stage lean year round. I'm sorry, that's not very healthy for a lot of reasons. So there's a lot of metabolic reasons, there's a lot of hormonal reasons, and you really need to be able, I think, to have a normal life at some point and just be able to go and eat something and track it and loosely eyeball it. And to me, that is so, so important. And again, I've been doing this for a long time, you guys, so if you've just started, don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure, I don't know how to do this. That's not it. It took me a very long time, and I've had a lot of messed up eating issues my entire life. So, from the time I was very, very young, I was anorexic, and I would track everything. I didn't know what macros were, but I was like obsessed with looking at calories. Like, that was like my favorite thing to do, was like looking at calories and labels. Like, what kind of kid does that? It's so twisted and terrible. But it used to be like a thing I would do, and everything was about that. And I would track, I would mentally look at what I was eating and mentally look at what everyone else is eating. Like, oh my God, and so and then I fell into competing. So, you know, my whole life has been one kind of weird, restricted kind of outlook. So now I've had to really overcome that and work on that, which is why I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so passionate to help my clients with it and to help you guys with it too. I know I can't work with everyone in the world, but hopefully if you're watching this, you at least take a step back and go, oh, maybe I need to be more flexible in my approach. Maybe that is why I'll end up binging or feeling bad or having food guilt or feeling like I'm like, you know, up to here all the, or wait, what's it up to? Oh, whatever. Feeling loud like all the time with your numbers. So if this is you or this is one of your clients, you know, and if you are one of my clients listening and you've been like, oh, that's why we did one of those untracked meals or whatever, now that maybe all makes sense, but you really should be able to kind of instill this flexibility in your lifestyle within your flexible diet. Now I get it. A lot of times we eat the same foods. I mean, like I eat a lot of the same foods because I like them. There's a cost perspective, there's a meal prep time perspective. But then there are times where I just buy new things that I want to try, or I go out to eat and I try new things. And that's really important. And some people aren't foodies and they don't care. But even if you don't care necessarily about food that way, it's still the outlook, and it's still being able to go, okay, I don't have full control of this meal, but I can still loosely track it and move on with my day, and it's not gonna wreck my life. So please guys, if you found this helpful, if you found like it resonated with you or what you're going through, please try to change your methods. And it's gonna take time and it's gonna be uncomfortable. But I'm really, really urging you guys to try to instill more flexibility in your lifestyle. There should always be a balance of structure and flexibility. And at some point you need to have more structure, and at some point you need to have more flexibility. So really, if this is you, please, hopefully this will help. I see it just a ton in our community, with, you know, just the fitness community in general. So if you liked this, share it, so hopefully someone else will be able to benefit from it. I'm really passionate about this, y'all. And so just take baby steps. You know, and next time you go out, like don't be like, oh, I'm gonna order this crazy thing and I'm not gonna know what's in it and I'm just gonna feel really bad. Like, no, order something that you know, like, okay, that steak and potato looks pretty good, like, let me order it. And then you can just say that was about this and about that, and then you can move on with your day. And so small baby steps. And even if you don't like to eat out, maybe you're at home and, you know, normally you weigh everything down to the gram. Go, okay, you know, this is about this much, and I'm gonna portion it out, you know, eyeball it, maybe 4 servings, and then just kind of move on. So there's small ways that you can incorporate this. If you're so stuck on the food scale, don't go, oh, I'm just gonna have a full-blown do whatever week. Like, that would be very, very overwhelming. But there's some people who need that. You know, you kind of need that wake-up call, like, hey, just go eat like a normal person and come back and see what happens. So, you know, I really encourage everyone to kind of figure out what you need at your point in your journey. But just remember that a flexible diet should be flexible. You should be able to incorporate any kind of foods that you like at any point in just the right amounts. And if you maybe don't know exactly what's in something, you can just kind of eyeball, estimate, and move on. So that is my biggest takeaway. Again, if you like this, I guess like it, share it, whatever. But I really, you know, I would love to get feedback in the comments, you guys, from this, because this is something that I'm really, really passionate about, and I want to help people because I feel like that's the next thing in our industry that needs help. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful and insightful for you, and have a great day.